Hey, welcome everybody. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Today I have with me Deborah Thomas, founder of DTN Productions, where she is an expert in what I call enterprise and business etiquette. And please don't be put off by the word etiquette. We're not going to be talking about the stiff and formal way of communicating today, because in today's world, it's very different. And yet, doing business is still doing business, and we're still people working and communicating with people. So I had decided that I was seeing a lot of things on live stream. I'm seeing a lot of solopreneurs trying to build a business, and I'm seeing a lot of simple things happening in their mannerisms, in the way that they're dressing, presenting themselves, the way they're speaking, that are rubbing me a little bit in terms of, well, that's a little off-putting. But also I've been wondering, just how much business are you losing if you're showing up dressed like this for a business function or what's labeled as a professional event, whether it's live streaming or in person. And so after being online myself since 95 and having my own business since 08 and seeing all of this, I decided Blab was the perfect platform to bring an expert in so that we could all learn. Where did I go to find her? I went to Twitter and I did a Twitter search. And she is very active in social media, so I was able to see who she was, the types of information that she was sharing with her followers. I could see the expertise in her writing and in her presentation on her website. And so I sent a quick message to her via Twitter. She responded, and we began a conversation, and she's with me today. So I'd like to introduce to you Deborah Thomas with DTN. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Could you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do with DTN Productions?
Certainly. Well, I launched my business over 25 years ago, and it was with the idea of, frankly, helping people discover what they didn't know so that they could eliminate some unnecessary distractions. And by that, I mean, as you said, mannerisms, behavior, dress, verbal tics, that sort of thing. So I put together a plethora of soft skills programs, everything from presentation skills. I have a program titled Communication Essentials, Body Language, Everyday Business Etiquette, How to Mix, Mingle, How to Network, Work the Room, because frankly, I found that people made mistakes, not because they deliberately wanted to be thought of as rude or inconsiderate, but they just didn't know what they did not know. And people were losing deals, people were not receiving promotions, and they couldn't understand why someone who perhaps had the same academic background or years on the job was promoted, but they were not. And so it often came back to, well, are you approachable? Are you timely? Maybe you're rude. Do you show up to your meetings late? So once people started to do their own self-assessment, then I was able to help put these workshops, programs together, and voila, here I am 25 plus years later doing more than ever on these topics.
More than ever. Now, I find that fascinating. We were talking a little bit earlier before we went live on the program here that you keynote speak, you conduct workshops, you work with organizations within, I'm assuming, within enterprise level, but also one-on-one coaching. Am I correct?
Correct. I do a lot of individual coaching. Often the coaching happens after people have attended a workshop, and then frankly, I do have a number of corporate clients for people who are on the fast track or for people who need to jump that hurdle. Organizations then pay for certain individuals to be coached to help them move forward in the best way possible.
Excellent. So that's the prepping the next leader. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. All right, let's get to the topic at hand, shall we? This is the whole reason why I wanted you here. I am used to and of the generation of working in a corporate setting, and I remember quite well in the late 80s and into the 90s, the onset of Casual Friday, and where we went from business suits and ties for men and business suits, usually skirts with pumps or small heels, short heels for women, to we could actually wear khaki slacks. I could wear really nice trousers and a button down on Friday. That was Casual Friday at the time. And I have seen it grow in various ways since then, and the onset of live streams. So what I want to pose to you a question. How would you describe business casual in today's world for 2016? And what does it look and feel like today?
Well, I'm going to give you quite a convoluted answer because this is what I'm hearing from my clients. And there is humor in what I'm about to say, so please feel free to just giggle right out loud. But I have a number of clients, and literally a week does not go by because I have a program titled Reputation Management, where I have put together the top 10 things that will impact a person's professional brand. And yes, it's everything from body language to mixing and mingling and taking clients to dinners, lunch, etc. But there is a segment also on dress. And when my clients get excited about them bringing me in, they can't wait for me to chat with their people. Often they will say, Deborah, oh, we're so glad you're here because we would like for you to somehow weave into your content the topic of cleavage. Will you please address not showing cleavage? And so here's the humor part. I say to my clients, absolutely. I'm happy to discuss cleavage, but I charge more.
Oh, that's funny.
Because often what I'm finding, and truly, Charlene, this is the issue. The people who are asking me this are often people in HR. And HR, that really, when it comes to a legal issue, a dress code issue, disciplinary issue, since I'm from the outside, I do not wield any power as I'm presenting a program, but they're hoping that I can influence in some way, that it's almost the feeling that it's mom and dad telling them when they say it from HR, but me from the outside, perhaps I can bring a new perspective. So here's the answer to your question. How is business casual today? I cannot tell you how many of my clients now have literally thrown up their hands on business casual and have now decided it's just casual. So that means jeans every day. People are left to their own devices, choosing the look. And we are going down a very, very slippery slope because business casual had become so casual. Frankly, dress codes have been so ignored because a lot of the management teams don't want to have to play fashion police. So it really is coming down to everyone being their own best advocate. What do they want to put out there? How do they wish to be perceived?
So having said that, new business owner entering into professional world, how do you know? How can you set your own standard? Because surely some of us are losing business because we don't understand what that casual means. Now, I'd like to back that up a little bit with my own view, which I know it might be viewed by some because of the age. We're going to get into generational here too. That it doesn't have to be suit and tie and what have you. But if I don't know, mm-hmm. I guess that's really what it is. I've been approached by somebody who wants to do business with me, and they have no problem using slang and swear words, and I'm put off by that. And the way they show up at a business meeting is, the ripped T-shirt, and it's the accept me as I am or don't accept me as well. I don't accept you. Move on. So how do we? That's an extreme, I know. But if you've got somebody first coming into business What's a good guideline? Maybe that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to put that out at you.
Well, certainly. And on a side note, because 95% of my work is within corporate America, and it ranges from insurance to law firms to banks to the healthcare world to the casinos, etc. But I also have about 5% of my business is in the collegiate world. And when I am presenting programs for the collegiate world, because if I'm on the campus of Harvard where I train, I also train at MIT and Carnegie Mellon and Ohio State, etc. And I'm working with young adults who are about to go for their first interviews. I would say the same thing to them that I say to someone in corporate America who's vying for that position, that think about how people perceive you in those first 7 seconds. And if you are showing self-respect, and self-respect means I care enough about myself that I'm taking the time to put myself together in a way that says I am respectful of not only me, but also you, the person who's taking the time to talk with me, the person who's interviewing me. Therefore, we do have to set our own guidelines for what we feel good about wearing. But at the same point, if you look to people who are those you admire, then there are certain people out there to emulate. And I do suggest, look to the leaders in any organization. So if you're working within a company environment already and you've been hired, then look to the leaders. How are they dressed? Just because you have perhaps your peers who are coming to work and you can tell they don't own an iron, just because they appear maybe wrinkled and rumpled, that's not the best decision for you. Because, for instance, men are now very much in the throes of being sold the concept of to buy the shirts that require no ironing. The package even says that. Those fabrics don't exist. They can try to sell you on that, but it really is not accurate. A crisp, freshly starched shirt has a whole different look compared to something you just pop out of the dryer and throw on. And as you mentioned, going back to the beginning of business casual, Dockers, if you think of Dockers trousers, they started this very much with the idea of really convincing people about the whole Docker look. They produced videos. Back in the 90s, my clients, and the videos were free, Dockers put together very well presented brochures and videos on how to dress in a business casual way. And companies were just really thrilled with this because they could then show these items in their own internal training and workshops. But the look was always, it fits you well, it's appropriate for the industry that you represent, it's appropriate for your age, it's appropriate for your physicality, as well as it's well groomed. You don't have things that look as though it's not tidy or it needs to be dry cleaned or laundered. So it's one of my topics that, frankly, it's all over the place. Yeah. It is all over the place as far as how people feel.
Well, having said that, we have a question from the audience, and it is Roger Castle, who is asking, do you think that casualness is harmful to our business interaction? And this is the part I like. Or do we dumb down ourselves to match the new normal? So what you are saying is, it's perfectly okay to be yourself, and we don't have much guidance. I'm kind of following your lead, I mean, great minds think alike, right? In the way that I'm dressed today. And it's appropriate for this venue in that it is a casual venue. And the people who know me as dressing like the way I am today. So this isn't a big shock to anybody who has met me. But I think Roger has an excellent question about, should we dumb ourselves down to match the new normal? What do you think?
Well, my thought is no. My thought is be, number one, your own best advocate. That you're not going to be afraid to stand out when other people are going the easy way, maybe even, might I say, the lazy way. Then if you really want to stand out, if you want to have those successes that come to you, then stay your own personal best. Now, it doesn't mean that you would be the only one ever in your organization wearing the full suit. If no one wears a suit, then that could be extreme. But business casual can really be sharp. For a man, have that sport coat handy, but it doesn't mean you have to wear it. You wear it when the time is right. But still the long sleeve shirt, the open collared shirt, the nice well-pressed trousers, the nice well-groomed shoes. Women have all sorts of options that don't have to be figure hugging and revealing too much. Women often make a provocative choice that takes away from their credibility. So constantly I'm asked to say, Deborah, in your sessions, could you mention don't wear clubbing attire? That it's obvious that you're heading to the club as soon as you leave work. That there is work attire, and then there is attire that you wear in your social life, your personal life, and when you're on the dance floor.
I can totally agree with that. In the context of, if I'm first meeting you and you are presenting yourself physically as somebody who's clubbing, if you will, or going out for the evening, and the context isn't there for it to make sense to me, and then you try to tell me that you are the data analyst who wants to work with me and my competitive intelligence business and might be forward facing with some of my clients, it's a jarring, right? Isn't that what it is? It's jarring. It doesn't fit what you're telling me, and that, honestly, that doesn't fit with the values and what I present for the company.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So are there generational differences? Because you bring up clubbing, and I got to tell you, it's I started seeing it on Business Casual Fridays back in the 90s before I started my own business. And I see some of it today, and it's usually college age. Although I have had the displeasure of being exposed to a 60-year-old woman who is dressed in the disco outfit, and it was difficult to take her seriously. It just simply was. She was a professional businesswoman who was attending a professional conference, decked out as if to go clubbing, and it was neither attractive, but it was also like a big billboard that says, "I'm off today." So just putting it out there. Anyway, generational. My apologies. I sidestepped there. Generational. Do you think that there's different perceptions in the reality or not of business casual?
Oh, absolutely there are. And I think that for all generations, we certainly have our own ability to make our own choices based upon what looks good and what looks appropriate. And for instance, there are things that I might have worn when I was in my 20s that I'm not going to wear now, because it's not right for my particular age. It's just that simple. So I think just being savvy and realizing the very harsh truth, and I realize people don't like to hear this, but it's just a fact. People are judgmental. People are highly judgmental, and people size you up head to toe in 7 seconds or less. And yes, a good portion of that is your body language that they are assessing as well. But there is something to be said about a person who you can tell by looking at them, they thought about what they were wearing, and in the situation they happen to find themselves, and the company that they are representing. Because I do have a number of companies that are incredibly buttoned up still as clients, and that's going to be very New York, very East Coast in some ways. And then I also have some in the Deep South that are still more buttoned up. West Coast, definitely even more casual. So I think you really have to be savvy in recognizing, what do I want to put out there? And I'm a firm believer, yes, be comfortable, but don't sell yourself short where people are going to misperceive you and then perhaps not give you an opportunity, all on something that can be petty, because certainly people can look at dress as petty for that. And I think even deciding what I was going to wear today. So to Hillary's comment about being comfortable, I'm comfortable right now. I'm very comfortable. I'm in a long sleeve turtleneck sweater. I have my scarf on, my affinity scarf that I'm enjoying. I still like to have a little bit of jewelry, but I'm comfortable. Now, if I'm walking into one of my clients' offices in Chicago, such as headquarters at Chase Bank, you better believe I'm going to be wearing some sort of a suit look. And by the way, a suit look for women is now equally popular. It doesn't have to be the jacket skirt matching ensemble. And I love the idea of bowler hats, by the way, Hillary, in London. I love hats. So kudos to hats if you enjoy wearing them. Not everybody could wear them well, but I say go for it. Because I do think it's fun to have your own personal signature and statement. I'm known, for instance, as you're wearing a scarf, Charlene. I love scarves, all sizes, shapes, colors, mixtures. And I also love color. But I am known, as they often are known in New York, and I'm not in New York, I'm in Ohio, but I am black and white. I wear more black and white than anything else.
Isn't that funny? See, and I'm blue.
Sure.
That's pretty much what everybody knows me as. Every once in a while, I'll wear something different, and actually we'll have people say, well, you look different. Oh, you're not in blue. So, right. Yeah, it becomes a signature without knowing it becomes a signature, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And so Walter was asking the question about what's your view of what to wear, what is proper attire for being on Blab. If I may, I'd like to answer this because having popped into a few Blabs just to get a feel for this, because I am new to the Blab world, I have seen things that I thought, oh. So,
oh my!
Yes. Are you sure you really want people to see you like that? Because I've seen people where all of a sudden their t-shirts popping up, and I'm seeing skin from tummy to the top of the belt, and that's on men. And so I'm thinking, are you sure that's the look you want? So I would say self-respect, but also respect to my audience.
Excellent point about respecting the audience. So take that a step further, would you? How do I respect my audience? How do I prep myself for a program like today? Or if I'm in the audience now, should I hesitate to jump into the open seat?
Well, because I do teach a program on assertiveness, might I say, jump into that seat.
Yes.
Because one of the top things that I say about today's environment, life is too short to be passive. And so you just really have to go for it. And I don't mean you do it in a rude way, and you don't do it in an entitled way, but you do it to show, I want to be engaged. I want to be a part of it. And so, yes, Walter, in regard to the no tank tops with skulls and bones, crossbones. Well, now, actually, to Hillary's point about wearing things that are funky, which I think is fun, I think you can add something fun and, again, have that funky personal statement that you can even blend in with a conservative look. It's amazing how that really can work. I say, go ahead, be yourself. And so I've seen, for instance, men will walk into a certain meeting, like my graphic artist designer, and he might have a sport coat on, but the t-shirt underneath definitely has to have something crazy on it because that's who he is. And he might have that skull and crossbones on. I say, yes, that's you. But it also is clean, it's tidy, and it goes with him. So yes, you want to put your own personality out there. And just realize that whatever you put out there, people are going to judge.
Excellent. Excellent. So I want to encourage, we've got 2 seats open. Anybody want to come in and meet Deborah and just simply talk, maybe share a story of discomfort or the raised eyebrows or I wonder if that was really appropriate. Something like that. The seat is open. Feel free. Taking questions from the side. I want to give a shout out and welcome to Kat. Kat Sturts is a friend of mine. Brian Rohrer, a friend of mine. Hillary Steele. She's a business owner in London, magazine publisher. Good to have you with us. Walter, as always, is an excellent blabber, if you will. So I do want to encourage you to feel free to come into the seat and continue to ask your questions or make your comments. And Brian, comes out with clean is equal to not morally objectionable. How interesting is that? Huh? And Walter, personally, he always wears a dress shirt on Blab, just as pretty much every time you see me, I'm going to be in a denim shirt on Blab. As I've said earlier, people have noted when I don't wear it. I've tried coming, this is funny that you were talking about the way you were about representing yourself. I've tried coming on to Blab and I've jumped onto a seat wearing just a t-shirt. Very uncomfortable for me. Very uncomfortable. Because to me, I know Hillary loves hers and she looks fabulous in hers. To me, a t-shirt represents really, truly relaxed here at the house. You know, so when I put it on, it's almost like, oh, well, I'm out in public here and this isn't what I normally wear out in public. So we'll give Kat a moment to come in. Blab is, there she is.
Hi.
Welcome, Kat. Good to see you. Kat,
Hello.
I'd like you to meet Deborah. Deborah, Kat Sturts.
Hi, Deborah. Nice to meet you. I just wanted
Great
to point
to
out
see
a
you.
couple things. Way back when I took spokesperson training with Michigan Farm Bureau, we had the early things about what to wear on air with television and in press conferences and things like that. And I know that when I record some of my own training videos, I wear white because I get a better resolution. But I found out that on Blab, it's not good to wear white because people can't see the hands and the props.
Isn't that interesting?
So I always, and Neil pointed that out to me one day. So now I always, if I'm wearing white or wearing something that's predominantly white in that area, I always throw at least a little bit of color so people could see the props.
How's that for a nice little
Good
tip?
point.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent.
So what do you think about this business casual, Kat?
I think you have to do it carefully, and I think you need to know what business casual means for the group you're attending. I was a dairy farmer for years and a spokesperson for Farm Bureau, and I also worked with the local weekly newspaper. So I was out and about interviewing people. And when I interviewed farmers, I didn't go in formal business attire like I did if I went to a press conference in Lansing that had the governor and all, our state senators and
Sure.
representatives and things like that. But I did dress a little bit up from meeting farmers at the coffee shop. I usually had a corduroy or a nice, jacket over really nice jeans or something like that, or Dockers or something. So it was elevated that I was there for business and not to slop the pigs or milk the cows with them. But because I wanted them to feel comfortable talking with me. And if I dressed too differently, I knew it would put them off and make them uncomfortable. And we were doing farm life stories, so I needed them to be very comfortable being who they were. So just slightly elevated. That would have been considered too casual for my job when I was a corporate salesperson for Yellow Pages with Gannett. That you couldn't have gone into a business that way. So, business casual is very subjective.
It is.
I loved your points, though. I still have to be me, so it's got to have a flavor of me as well. And I love dressing up for theater, but not so much in daily life. To the hilt with diamonds and furs and stuff for some characters, and down in the dumps, hobos for others, and everything in between is fine for the stage. But everyday life, it's more of a casual side of elegance if I have to do elegance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't that interesting? Casual side of elegance.
Yeah, that just popped out of my mouth.
The writer in you came out. Nice.
If I might add, a lot of people, when they receive invitation to events, and I had some people very confused last year when they were invited to an event where I was speaking. They were told to come in country club casual. And by the way, this was a bank. So this was a bank that was hosting my training programs off-site, and it was going to involve a luncheon, and they wanted everyone to come in country club casual. Now, we were not at a country club, but they wanted people to arrive in that type of attire. Well, so literally, I saw everything. Mm-hmm. I saw everything from sparkles to men in only golf shirts and Dockers, but most of the men were wearing sport coats. And the men who arrived without the sport coats, they told me that they felt incredibly awkward because it was obvious they needed to have theirs bumped up. But no one knew. What's the definition of country club casual? That's a new term.
Yeah, I would have thought polo shirt with a sweater, tied over your shoulders.
Right, yes.
What about the tennis skirt? I'm already thinking you've got the tennis skirt and then the loud golf pants.
Oh, literally at my sessions, and I conducted about 12 of them for the same bank, I could have written a book on what I saw.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So your point then, Deborah, was that the term was not easily understood by all of the attendees. They might have been better off saying, jeans are inappropriate if they wanted to be more direct.
Yes, because you're right. There were people there who did wear the jeans and the tennis shoes. And then there were people who were dressed. You would think they were going to the opera.
Wow. Yeah. So I want to welcome Hilary Steele from London. Hilary, meet Deborah and Kat.
Hi, Deborah. Hi, Kat. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Delightful to meet you as well.
It's quite funny, actually, because I'm an ex-Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, ABN AMRO and Hewlett-Packard employee. So the casual Friday in the 90s, late 90s was my kind of world. And today, yes, I'm actually wearing a shirt, but that's because I was filming against a white wall. So the black shirt. But I have jeans on and I have funky sneakers on down below. And that's the look for today. And yet other times I'm in heels that are like this high, tottering around. And you can see from my profile picture, I spend quite a lot of time in formal evening wear at events. So to wear the funky t-shirts for me, it matches my personality, and yet I'm as comfortable wearing corporate attire as formal attire as I am jeans and t-shirts, which is, I think that's important. And Charlene's seen me in some of my funky t-shirts, especially at weekends.
Yes, fun t-shirts.
And it does match, and I do live cooking demonstrations at farmers markets. And that's my hobby, and I'm becoming well known for that around here. And then it's always funky sneakers, funky t-shirts, messy hair, and that's how people know me. So it's quite funny. It is quite funny, the different ways. So I was enjoying your conversation. I was actually in the kitchen cooking on the phone. So I thought, no, I'm going to go upstairs.
I'm so glad you did. Well, I'm so glad you stopped by. You are starting to break up on the audio, though. So if you want to stay, I'm going to ask that you refresh, just so that we can make sure you don't blip out completely on the audio.
I will.
Okay. Such a dear. Such a dear.
I'm going to vacate my chair so someone else can come in. I'll probably lurk for a few more minutes because my own blab with Steve Henry is coming up at the top of the hour. So
fantastic.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Deborah.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Kat.
Thank you for coming, Kat. We're going to bring Hilary back in. Anybody else would like to jump into the open seat? Ask a question to the side. Feel free. There she is.
Any better?
Much.
Fabulous.
Perfect.
I had it at work in the office this morning when I logged on. It gave me this firewall thing that it blocked all the screens, and then it's just happened at home. So I'm not quite sure what that's about.
We're going to blame Blab for those watching the replay and the recording. Blab is in beta, and so when things go awry, we just blame Blab. Just so you know. So this is interesting because here Deborah was bringing up here's a formal invitation to an event, giving you a guideline that's obviously not speaking the same language to everybody. It's in a language that nobody quite agrees of what it means as, country club attire. And yet there were all corporate people. I thought they would have gotten it because they were all corporate people, and half of whom would have belonged to country clubs. So I'm assuming that's what the event planner assumed.
What was
And
oh no, go on.
Well, the invitation was stated as they were coming to the workshop and the lunch that they needed to dress in country club attire because these were all bankers who deal in wealth management. So they're out and about entertaining clients over lunches and dinners and in social events. And so the meeting planner issued the invitation with the dress code for the events, country club casual.
Okay.
And so the people then asked me, could I please define that for future events? And so I put together a description so that people would not be embarrassed when they attended their events this year.
I like that, country club casual. Country club casual. Be interesting whether the US version of country club casual is the same as, say, I would imagine it to be, and say the Australians, because the cultures across the three nations I just mentioned are quite different. Now, I spent 2.5 years living in Italy, and I caught something earlier when you were saying the shirts with the jumpers tied around the neck. That is a classic Italian look with a pair of chinos and boat shoes or something like that, we call it. And that look has been in Italy for, I don't know, 1,000 million years or something, since the time of Caesar. And they still maintain that with the blue and white checked shirts. That kind of look is country casual. So you're very much, in my opinion, looking at chinos, a beautifully ironed shirt where the crease has to be perfect. Has to be perfect. Yes. And then there's the sweater over the shoulders. That for me would signify for gentlemen, obviously, and country club casual for ladies. See, we can get away with chinos and boat shoes and tops and things, we can get away with comfortable trousers and flat shoes in that kind of thing. Country club casual doesn't suggest to me high heels and a blouse as opposed to a shirt type thing. That was what it would mean to me personally.
Right.
So isn't that interesting, though, that you didn't say one thing about jeans? And yet here in the U.S., that was part of the problem. People appeared in jeans for the event. So a question, because we're going to go generational, I bet you it's going to happen. Are jeans ever appropriate in a business setting?
Well, I'm a jeans snob, so I have a thing about the wash of jeans and bums in jeans. But I have a real thing about the quality of jeans, and I own far too many pairs of jeans than I ever need, but they match my sizing depending on how many cakes I've eaten or something. I think, for example, really dark blue jeans with proper shoes, a nice jacket and a decent shirt in a business networking environment or a kind of seminar environment is acceptable. However, I'm hosting an event for a very large, very old, stuffy British organisation called the Institute of Directors next week. And a guy who dresses in polo shirts and chinos all the time, he said to me, "Hilary, you need me to come suited and booted, don't you?" And I said, yes. So he respected from the invitation of the event that I was inviting him to as my guest, that his appearance was actually dictated by the standard of event sort of thing. So jeans would not be accepted. And as I'm hosting this event for about 100 people, if someone walked in jeans, the jeans freak, would be like this. And I would clock you. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? That it is going to be a generational thing where younger generation are going to come through and just wear jeans. But I do think there are times it's acceptable, but not those nasty stonewashed jeans that are really old looking with rips in or something. But the really dark wash or black jeans. I think black jeans you can get away with more if you're wearing a jacket.
Well, what do you think of that, Deborah?
Well, I know with my clients, they actually are very specific as to, does business casual mean jeans? And so I tell my clients, I'm not at all there to establish their dress codes. They have the liberty to decide for themselves. So if they say that jeans are acceptable as part of their business casual look, Then I talk about, to Hillary's point, okay, those need to be appropriate jeans you would wear in the office, not jeans that perhaps where you have mowed your grass in them or washed your car. So, because I would agree with Hillary, I'm a bit of a jeans snob in that regard too. So, some people don't think you ever need to iron jeans or have them dry cleaned. And so that's from Hillary.
I heard the gasp. Yes, the gasp.
Right. So it becomes very, to use Kat's expression earlier, it is very subjective. Very subjective.
So a question then. I'm holding an event, whatever that event is, and invitations are sent, be it via social media, be it in person, whatever it may be. Is it up to me to help my attendees understand what the expected dress code is? Because Hillary, it sounds stuffy, the Institute of Directors. Sorry, it does. So it sounds like I'm just going to have to dress up for that one, right? Suited and booted. But if it's a networking event and it's of the evening and it's because it's after work hours, something like that. What do you think, Deborah?
Well, I do think, and I think to Hillary's point, yes, you let people know in advance what the expectation is. So I think on the invitation, although, again, when we talk about casual, a lot of people don't even bother with RSVPing, let alone thoroughly reading the invitation. So that brings up another topic altogether. But I think to give a little hint, such as wear your business casual best, please no jeans, or wear your business casual dress, jeans are acceptable. So I think helping people is another way of showing good manners so that you never want your guests to be embarrassed.
No.
Right.
And the Institute of Directors, it is stuffy. It is stuffy, but a lot of the events are more casual. However, this is a specific event where a certain dress code is required, hence the communication across it. I have to say, playing the game with the Institute of Directors is one of the fastest ways that my business has grown in a huge circle of a higher intellectual capacity because of the kind of people I'm networking with. So when we buy into that, we all know what's coming and we all know what's expected. And I think because there's that unwritten law, rule, and I'm probably the youngest person by about 400 years, that helps.
Hillary's trying so hard to be the previous generation. We're just going with that, right?
No, I'm not the previous generation. I'm really old. I look a lot younger than I am, actually. I got told that earlier. Apparently I don't look my age, but trust me, I'm...
You and me both. It is something that we must bear.
Oh, okay then.
Welcome, Roger.
I'm going to jump out and let you talk to Roger. Okay, excuse me, I'm going back to the kitchen. But lovely to meet you, Deborah. Nice to meet you briefly, Roger. Lovely. See you later, Charlene.
Thank you, Bye-bye. Hillary. Bye-bye now. Welcome, Roger.
Hi, Charlene.
Nice to meet you.
I hope I'm coming across okay. This satellite might not hold the connection very well.
So far, so good.
But I saw your I saw your notice come out, and noticed it was about etiquette and dress, and perhaps unrelated, but this is something we've been doing in our family. We've been studying in our family lately with the children, and also did an episode on our podcast about etiquette, about manners, about how you dress. And the phrase that keeps coming to mind is, I believe it was Abraham Lincoln, said, "Familiarity breeds contempt." And I never understood what that was until we got to studying it. And it's familiarity in that you're taking license. You're taking license to not present your best to who you're presenting yourself to, and to do that breeds contempt. Contempt being you think less of the other person. So how I see it, I mean, I've not always, but what we're trying to foster in our family is, if I don't present myself in a respectful way, that being dressing well, speaking well, eating well, showing respect where it's traditionally given, If I don't do that, then I'm automatically saying you're not worth enough for me to do that. And I see that in business interactions too. Even if I do stand out, I think there's an extreme to it. I'm not going to wear a tuxedo, but because that's a bit much. But if I don't at least wear a tie, dress slacks and a tie to a business meeting of any sort, I'm telling that person, you're not worth anything more than just what I've got on. Because what I bring to the table is not just my mind and my work that I bring to the table. It's how I dress it, and how you dress it is important.
What do you think, Deborah?
Well, I do agree. I think for a lot of people, again, coming back to the comment that I have to make often, and people frequently don't like to hear it, but because by human nature, we are a judgmental society. And yes, some of the things do come across as very petty, but when we do show that self-respect, at the same point, we are showing respect to everyone else. So whether we're in a work setting or how we communicate socially or with our families in a familial setting, all of that matters. And it just really shows that you've given it some thought. Right. And that's what I think is happening today. A lot of people are taking perhaps suggestions, or they're making observations, whether it's in the social media world of just putting it out there and saying things that are unkind and unnecessary. That becomes a part of a person's brand, that they subscribe to that, or that they're okay with that, which then goes all the way to the fact that people just wear what they want to wear without thinking about what is the impact that I'm making on my brand, but also how I'm showing respect to others when I go to their event.
Excellent points.
Yeah.
So a question.
I've noticed. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead, Roger.
I've noticed on Blab, this venue in particular, somehow it breeds casualness. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because we're all sitting at a desk, and a lot of us, just by definition, are working from home. So, we dress however we are. But, I popped onto this, and I see Deborah is dressed nicely. I mean, from waist down, she could not be. I don't know. But from what I see, she's dressed nice. And Charlene, you're always dressed nice. So when I come in, I see you guys, and that is, I form a judgment. And I think everybody forms a judgment based on how we're dressed right off the bat. And there are others that try to put themselves out there as a expert in their field. Uh-huh. And you can't do that if you're wearing a t-shirt. I don't care what you're doing. The only one that could get away with that is maybe a mechanic. But I'm dressed in a work shirt. I've been out cutting wood this morning. But even now I'm trying to straighten my t-shirt so I look presentable, but I'm not even trying to present anything. But there's no way I would go on in what I'm dressed in now, trying to present myself professionally, and people do that all the time. So you would
come in,
and I wonder if they just don't know.
So you wouldn't come in now and try to talk about your business dressed as you are right now?
I wouldn't. I could probably get away with it, but I wouldn't, because I know this is a work shirt. This is a C.S. Schmidt. I got it at Tractor Supply. It's my outside work shirt. Mm-hmm. Even if it looked the same on camera, it would be as important to me as it is to the people that I'm presenting to.
So we've been talking about dress, and Roger alluded to this earlier when he was talking about it within the family of how to present yourself when we go out. So I'd like to move this over into the realm of our speech. Can we be too familiar or casual in business with our speech or our attitude? And can that be harmful? What do you think, Deborah?
Well, definitely a lot of slang usage, also things that I call verbal tics, certainly using too much jargon. A lot of people really speak in such a manner that it can even be borderline crass today, where it's the whatever attitude. So I certainly feel that to do a self-assessment of how a person projects an image in totality, but it needs to be authentic. For instance, I have a more formal way of communicating. I know that. That's just who I am. I come across as a little more perhaps reserved, but I'm really a very fun person, and I enjoy a lot of humor, and I'm certainly not stiff, and I'm not some type of a purist. So even if someone uses foul language, I'm not offended by it if it's in a setting where it could be accepted. That would not be a business setting. It certainly wouldn't be in front of small children. So I really think it comes back to how you present. Are you thinking about your audience, who you happen to be among? And I consider myself, by the way, very hip. So regardless of age, it's my job to be hip. It's my job to be relevant. That means I have to stay current. And so some of the jargon that's used, I know most of the hip terminology and the jargon, etc., but it doesn't mean I use it because, number one, it's not my generation. And number two, it would sound very odd for me to say some of the things that perhaps a Gen Y person might say. So when I'm coaching a Gen Y person, I do tell them, you need to be thinking about who's hearing what you're saying, because number one, they may not understand. And number two, they might be highly offended. So take the time to think before you speak.
I think that's an excellent point. And it's been noted to the side that there's a lot of profanity on Blab, though I would like to remind myself and others what Blab is. It is like walking down a hallway and each door is a room into a completely different conversation. So I could take a peek into a Blab. I can see the torn T-shirts and hear some of the crass language or the vulgarities and say, oh, that wrong room. And I can move on and find the room that's more suited to who I am and what I'm looking for with interaction and engagement. Mm-hmm. I think that also, and I'm going to throw this out to Deborah, Georgia Lee, London, is asking how to dress when hosting a Blab. And just segue right into that, if you would, Deborah, that if you're the host of a Blab, how to prepare yourself in terms of dress as well as speech. What do you think? And then Roger, jump on in with that one.
Well, I do believe that for me, as someone who does give presentations every week, sometimes every day, in front of audiences, so I'm there live, I think how I show that I have prepared for my audience when I walk onto that stage or when I walk into that workshop, that says, I respect you. I'm ready for you. I've done my homework, rather than trying to fly by the seat of my pants. And we've seen many people do that. Therefore, I do feel for anyone who does invest in a Blab, I'm going to be a part of a Blab that adds value to my life, to my day. What is my objective for attending a Blab? Therefore, if the person comes across with obviously their content organized, and if they look the part, if they look as though they are here ready, poised, ready to talk about the subject at hand, that gives me much more of an interest. So I would say, yes, bump it up. The look shouldn't be as though I'm about to go hit the beach or I'm about to go shovel snow or whatever. If you're the host, I think it all comes together that you look ready. You look audience worthy.
There's a nice tidbit, audience worthy. What do you think, Roger?
I think the question you need to ask when you're preparing for a Blab or preparing for any presentation is, how respectful do you want to be? How respectful to those attending your event? How respectful of their time, of their attention, and all of that do you want to be? Mm-hmm. And there have been a number of folks that it sounded like a good subject. They probably knew what they were talking about. But when I clicked over and I see the host in a ripped up T-shirt with a bunch of junk from their bedroom behind them. This is our stage. I mean, that's why I don't host Blabs, because I've got my desk behind me. I've got this boom mic kind of annoys me because I don't feel like it's part of my stage. I need to do something better about that. But I wouldn't present that. I want to be respectful of my audience's time, just like you're always respectful of my time. I know when I come on to something that you're hosting, it's going to be well done. It's going to be well presented. You're not going to waste my time by your presentation. You put effort into it. I know you put effort into it. And maybe it's just habit for you now. It's not habit for me yet, which is why we're having to study it in the whole week. I'm having to study right along with my kids because I've been that guy that was just, whatever, to everything. And you can't, I can't put it into words, but that's not right. It's not right to do to yourself. It's not right to do to your image, your personal brand. It's not right to do to other people.
Well, I think you said it earlier, Roger, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, but Georgia is bringing out that it's about respect and bring a level of dignity and decency, if you will, is what I'm gathering from the word respect. I would like to just add a note that as a host, I believe you are the one that sets the tone of the blab or the event or the dinner or the networking or whatever it is. If you are the host, you are the one setting the tone. So if you're too casual, you're going to get that right back. That's the way I've seen it. My own experience on Blab has proven that to be true. I prefer a little more elevated. I'm very similar to Deborah, a little more reserved in the way I speak. I tend to come off a little tight. And I'm perfectly okay with that when people say that, because it's kind of fun when they get to know me and say, you are nothing like I thought you were. Just as this gal here, you know, when she cuts loose how much fun she is. Trust me, she's a lot of fun. We may seem like we're wrapped tight, but it's only because it's the appropriate image or the appropriate mannerisms that we're bringing to the event. Correct, Deborah? Isn't that, we must be a little more restrained at the moment.
Exactly. And it does not in any way limit the person's personality. It's just the person is very careful choosing which part of their personality to show in any given moment based upon what is the audience, what are the objectives. And a lot of people think that they can just be the same way all of the time. And I stress, communication is not a one-size-fits-all per person or per situation. So how do you synchronize to the moment? And it means you have to care about that moment. It's not just about you, it's about everyone else you're impacting. Excellent.
So we have time for final question, be it from Roger or from the audience. We have I had her for 1 hour and we're hitting the top of the hour. So I want to make sure that if you have a question, please present it now.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and duck out, Charlene.
Okay, Roger. Thanks so much for coming in. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Roger.
We did have a comment from Walter about if you have a home-based business, you need to present yourself as the ambassador because first impressions matter. Your biggest brand is yourself. You're branding you. So people are going to respond to you before they respond to your product or service. Thoughts on that, Deborah?
I do agree completely. I moved my office to my home a number of years ago, having had an external office, but I was never in it because I travel every week. So it just made sense to move it to the home, but I still have to treat it the same as I treated my external office, with the same level of respect for when I'm answering my office line, when I'm on something such as Blab here. I want it to come across as very professional. It also puts me in the right mindset as well. So it bumps up my activity level to that professional level where it needs to stay because I'm doing business. I'm not going to have dogs barking in the background. I'm not going to have the phones ringing. I'm not going to be looking at my phone, which I watch people on Blab do a lot, that they'll be multitasking. No, I'm going to show you the respect. I'm here 100% with you, or I would not have scheduled the time.
And I greatly appreciate that, Deborah. It has been a pleasure to have you with me today. I want to encourage everybody to learn more about Deborah Thomas. Her website is DTN-Productions.com. You can connect with her on Twitter at DTN Etiquette. You can, of course, follow her on Blab. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of her on Blab as time permits in her busy, busy, busy schedule. And yes, there's an excellent statement here. You are what you show every day. I like that. And then I did want to make one comment. One thing I had done as a trainer in customer service was that the telephone. How many times, something I've learned about myself, if I'm too casual in my dress, that on the phone I become too casual. As I said, when I wear a t-shirt, it is relaxed time. It is go to the races. It is clean the house. So my entire attitude is very, very casual when I'm in a t-shirt. So my dress does affect my attitude. And I loved what Deborah had said about how actually that she's found that to be true too in most cases. But it's about respecting who I'm with. It's about thinking about the other people. It's about being mindful that it really isn't all about me. Am I correct, Deborah?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do make the comment that sometimes doing what's right isn't easy. And that comes down to whether it's choosing the right clothing or saying the right thing. But certainly it's worth the effort.
Thank you. Is there another way that you would like other people to contact you? If so, you can say it or type it into the comment area. Feel free to do that. We are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to bring this to a close. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I know how precious your time is. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and talking about just how casual is business casual. What the heck is it really? And how can we be better as we move forward? I want to thank everybody who's joined us in the live stream, especially Hillary and Roger. It was delightful having you in here, and Kat, and those in the comment section for your excellent questions and comments related to our topic today. Again, thank you. And this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Thank you for joining Deborah Thomas and me and talking about business casual and how can we be better as we move forward with our businesses.